Hey guys, so I'm here to talk about Celpip reading. This is because a lot of people in my DM that are saying they need help with Celpip reading. They are stuck in Celpip reading. Some will have very high mark in Celpip, other Celpip modules, but they are stuck in Celpip reading. It's not that these people don't know English. A lot of them speak good, they can write good, but they are stuck in Celpip reading. And the three simple answers to this question, to this problem, is the fact that you're either practicing the wrong way, or you are reading the wrong way in exam, even when you are practicing, or you are thinking about the questions in the wrong way. And this is what I want to address in this video. So if you're in this category of people, kindly head straight to my YouTube channel, Try with NG, and watch the full video over there. So for people that have seen struggling with Celpip reading, I'm going to be listing a whole lot of things that you are probably doing wrong, that is resulting to you being stuck in Celpip reading. And then we address it together, okay? And the first one is you are reading Celpip reading word for word. Celpip reading, you don't have that time to read word for word. If you are trying to understand every single word in Celpip reading, one, a lot of things will happen. You would be too slow and you will start rushing, and then panic sets in. Then, secondly, when you're trying to understand every word, you will lose out on understanding what the main idea is. Sometimes most of the words there are filler words. So you just need to understand what the main idea is. You are not supposed to be reading everything word for word. Also, because you are trying to read word for word, you run out of time. For instance, in part 3 of self-help reading, I think it's probably 11 minutes to attempt that question, and you have to attempt that part, and you have 9 questions to answer. What does this tell you? You have 1 minute at most to answer every question, and then it means the other 2 minutes remaining is for you to go through your passage. So, and I wouldn't even suggest that you use up the 2 minutes in going through your passage. What I always do is to make myself go through the passage in 1 minute. The idea is not for you to read everything word to word, it's for you to skim read. You skim read in 1 minute. And like I said, master the art of skimming. So if you master the art of skimming first, then you use 1 minute each at most to answer all the questions, each question 1 minute, and you will see that you will not run out of time. If you are doing this during your practice, it will master you before the exam. You cannot go and be practicing all this strategy on exam day and then you come back and say, oh, the strategy didn't work. Of course it will not work. The second reason why you have problem in self-help reading is poor time management. Okay, for instance, if you're wasting time answering a particular question, say a question you are supposed to answer in 1 minute, and you already spent 1 hour, 30 minutes still figuring out that question. And in fact, if it takes you up to 1 minute to decide on your answer, you're already failing that question. And trust me, if you're wasting so much, up to 1 hour, 30 minutes trying to figure out one answer for one question, it means that you are shortchanging the rest of the questions. By the time what will happen is that when you're approaching towards the end, you will see that, oh, I still have like four questions I've not answered. I still have like 5 questions I've not answered. And then you begin to rush towards the end. And then you are no longer paying attention to pick the right answer. What you are after is the fact that you want to make sure that you answer all the questions, or worst case scenario, you would run out of time, or you just take guess just to move on. And but this could have been avoided, and that is why I advise people that Once you have spent 30 seconds trying to figure out your answer for a particular question, move on. Pick one and move on. Yes, it's better you have more time after you have gone through all the questions to come back to it than rushing towards the end and rushing through 5 questions. Do you know what 5 questions means? Or 4 questions, or even 3 questions? When okay, you can just risk one and proceed to the next. Because the moment you spend over 30 seconds, once you read your questions, if you understood the main idea of that passage, you have mastered skimming and scanning, you should be able to pick up your answers in 30 seconds, or at most in that 1 minute. So if you're spending anything beyond that 1 minute, you're wasting time. Also, another reason is the fact that people read the passage, read the paragraph, or even a sentence, but do not understand the question or that paragraph. It's an understanding problem. No strategy is going to fix that for you except you take time to work on this problem. And the most popular one, the next reason is the fourth one, matching the words instead of meaning, which is the paraphrasing trap. This is popular in all modules of self-pip. Paraphrase, everybody keeps talking about paraphrasing. Self-pip will not will hardly ask you questions and give you the answers directly as it is in the passage. You are supposed to know when you see a question, ask yourself, what does this question mean? What's another way this can be said? Because if you're not doing this, you will probably go and be looking for answers that have the same word. And trust me, most of the time they will put that answer that has that same word in the passage, and you will see it and you think, oh, I got it. No, you did not get it. Because the right answer, probably did not have that exact word in it. So always ask yourself, what does this question mean in another way, in a simpler way, so that you'll be sure you understood it, so that you're sure that you can rephrase it in another way, and then by so doing, you will be able to pick the right answer. Also, another popular mistake that people are making is the fact that you ignore the contrast trap. A lot of people would be reading a sentence and then toward, read the first line of that sentence and think the answer is there, but then something is following. However, or but is following. Immediately a but is following a sentence, or however, or another contrast word. It means that what it negates whatever that have been said earlier. The things that the first line of the sentence has said is no longer valid. Your answers lies after the but, after the however. So if you are ignoring this contrast word, it means that when you are not paying attention, you are not on the lookout for them. It means that you would probably be picking wrong answers in exam or even during your practice. So what I'll suggest is that when you are answering your questions, if you read a passage or when you are skimming, try to identify those contrast words, or when you read, maybe when you have used scanning to locate where your answer may lie, like I told you in one of the previous video, when you are using scanning, when you have located the around where your answers lie, as you're reading, pay attention to contrast words, pay attention to however, but, despite, whereas, there are tons of it, not the less, in spite of. So there are lots of contrasting words. Be on the lookout for them. So when you find your where your answer may lie after you have used scanning, be on the lookout for these contrast words. Also, in Celpip reading, there is what they call main idea question. So some questions ask you about the main idea, but in the options, they give you specific details, the details in the passage. So you would think, oh, because those details are so in the passage, you go pick up there. But no, they're asking you about the bigger picture, about the main idea. And if you are focusing on that smaller details, thinking that's the right answer, you would miss it. So what you do is Try to understand the different kind of questions in Celpip reading. There is main idea question, there is inferential question, there is predicting question, and the likes. So try to understand what type of question is this asking you. That will help you when you are picking your response. The next problem is weak scanning skills. Like I told you, you need scanning, especially in part 3 and part 4, where the passage is very long. You do not have time to read all the passage. And if your scanning skill is weak, that means you will not be able, even if you're able to know how to use it, it means that you may not be able to find those words quickly. And if you cannot find your words quickly, it means you would waste more than 1 minute answering that questions. And that means you are shortchanging other questions. Or some people don't even know how to use that scanning at all. They begin to try to read everything. And the moment you are trying to rush through to read everything, you realize that you are not even grabbing the main idea because you are reading in panic. Also, the simplest one, some people will see the answer very simple, straightforward. They will think the complicated answer is the right one. Like, Sepip keeps it simple. You are not an English professor, so they are not trying to test how you understand complicated grammar or anything. So, when in doubt, use elimination and choose the simple option. Do not start overthinking the answers. No, don't do that. Also, another reason is when you see big vocabulary that you are not familiar with, you start to panic. Why? Do not panic. Instead of wasting time panicking on the words you don't know, why not focus on the words in that sentence that you know? Try and now focus on the context in which that word is being used. That will help you understand what that sentence is pointing at. So come across an unfamiliar word, no, don't let it make you panic. And another thing I will suggest, one thing that Celpip does is that, because it's a Canadian exam, right? Most of the things used are things that they use word vocabularies that are very common in Canada. And that's why I also like tell people, go watch CBC News every day, even if it's 10 minutes of your time. Watch CBC News, Global News, CTV News that are in Canada. And if you go to their YouTube videos, they are also on their YouTube videos. They are also on it. If you go to their YouTube video, they have playlists that can even focus on different cities and with different accents. This will help you in self listening too. So you would be getting familiar with certain words used in Canada. For instance, if you tell somebody that is not in Canada what is a ask the person what is a blizzard, the person will not know it. Before I came to Canada, I never know what blizzard is. In fact, I don't even know what snowstorm mean. The first day I heard was that, oh, there is going to be a snowstorm. I thought that we were going to be hearing sound of thunder and it will be snowing. That was what I sincerely thought it was. But no, snowstorm is that it means it will continuously snow maybe throughout the day, and like the height of the snow was going to be so after the snow is going to be so high. So when you get yourself, if you're listening to podcasts, Canadian podcasts, Canadian news, you will be hearing these words like being used in conversations, and you'll be familiarizing yourself with it. And of course, you're trying to relocate to Canada for people outside Canada, so it will help you to familiarize yourself easily. 10th one is very important. This one, you are practicing, but you are not reviewing your mistake. You finish working, and that is why I recommend self-test free, because they will tell you why they pick this answer, why this other option is wrong, why this is wrong. A lot of people will practice, and they see, oh, okay, you are finished practicing. I had 5/9. Did you try to find out why did you have 5/9? What made you pick that wrong answer? You do not. You move on. That's wrong practice. That means you are just repeating your mistakes. And then you go to another one, you do the same, you keep practicing. It's not, you're not going to improve that way. Also, some people start to panic after they have one hard question. No, don't do that to yourself. It's an exam. It's normal for hard question to come up. What you do is that is gone. Any question that you have done is done. Do not allow it to affect the others. Focus on the future. See it as a way that, oh, I'm going to make up for the other ones. And always, I know it's not easy, but always remind yourself that calm down. Also, this one is one of the biggest problems. You don't know any, you go in without a system that you use to answer this question. No scheming, you don't know how to scheme, you don't know how to scam, you don't know any structure, you don't have any strategy that works for you. The fact that I even gave my own strategy doesn't mean you have to adapt it. The fact that other stores online that you see online gives out different styles doesn't mean it will work for you. If you try it, if it doesn't work for you, try, do a practice, find what works for you so that you master it. When you see that it's working for you, you master it. And then when you get to your exam, you use it. Don't go about, oh, I'm going to use this person, use this person, use this person. You overwhelm yourself. I don't even advise people to go around listening to so many people. You don't have to listen to me. You can choose another person, stick to that person's strategy. When you try to get everybody's strategy, you lose focus. You will not, when you now see hard question, you don't even know the one to use anymore. Then you start to panic. You will not even be able to master a particular one because you're trying to get a hold of everything. Lastly, the one I will state lastly is the one that happened to me. But I was able to quickly talk to myself that, oh, get yourself together. When exams start, what most people do is because your time is still fresh, you are so relaxed, you are so relaxed that you are wasting time, taking your time as if the exam is waiting for you to answer the earlier questions, and then forgetting that you have other questions coming up. And sometimes the more you progress, the harder the questions. And then because you have wasted time when you are coming from the first question, you will now start rushing towards those hard ones and you are picking nonsense as your answers. I remember in my part three of Celpip reading, when I did Celpip, I did that. I quickly figured out that why am I wasting so much time? Like what, not like I was wasting time. Why am I relaxed? So I'm not saying panic, but I feel like, oh, I still have time. But then thankfully I was able to quickly speak to myself. And that is what practice does for you, because when you practice and you whatever you do in practice is what you do in exam. That's just it. Whatever you do in practice is what you do in exam. So when I practice, I stuck to myself. So when I go to exam, when I see myself trying to fall into a particular trap, I quickly tap myself, oh, get it together, get your ass together. So in the next video, I'm going to be talking about how you can practice correctly, how you practice to improve on your mistake. Yes, you are stuck in maybe band 6, band 5, or even lower, or 7, except for instance, for people that want to use it for express entry, you can go higher, but you need to practice in the right way. And in the next video, I will be talking about how to practice in the right way, because you don't need to be repeating practice and be repeating it wrongly. You're just wasting your time, technically, because if you do a test and you do not review it, do a self review, you do not work on how to get better. If you mistakenly get better in the next one, you do not take time to study what you did wrong or how you can improve, and you then maybe magically improve in the next one. It's not that you are getting better, it's just luck, because you did not put in work to see, oh, why did I get better? You did not review, why did I get better? What did I do better at this time that made me score higher than the previous one? So check the next video.